Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to our Straight Talk. This morning, we're going to be spending some time talking about our budget, where we've been this last year, our finances, and sometimes, there's a few people who really get into all this, all the numbers and the budget, and for some of you, this might seem like a kind of a boring topic, but it is filled with a lot of praise and thankfulness because God has just been so good to us. And that's due to the faithfulness of all of you and obviously to God's faithfulness to our congregation. So I hope you'll take some time to stick with us here. We're going to talk a little bit about where we've been this last year. We're going to talk about where we see ourselves going in the future. And then we're going to talk a little bit about some possibilities in as far as our land and some things that are happening in the future. So I want to introduce the team that we have. And this is just a little bit of our larger team of the elders and the admin team. And we were just talking before we started, we can just have fun together because we do. We have a lot of meetings, but we have a lot of fun in our meetings. And a lot of great conversations about how we care for this church and how we steward God's resources. So Dave is here. He's the first one on my right. And Dave has been a big part of our admin team. He's also in the banking industry for a long time. Finance. I know. He's retired now. So he has been a huge blessing, just coming from the world of finances to help us, but also loves the Lord and loves this church. And so we're thankful to have Dave with us. And then Bruce is one of our elders. And Bruce and I have known each other for a long time. He's served on the elder team for several years. And so Bruce is here, as part of the elder team to share a little bit of some of the insights that the elders have, and also to talk to us a little bit about land. And then, of course, everyone knows Francie. And Francie is the one who keeps us all in line and keeps us headed in the right direction. And so we're gonna jump in. And thank you guys for being up with me and giving this. So first, we wanted to let you know a little bit about our process. How did we get here? This is a big budget. We're creeping up on $1 million, which is pretty incredible. This is something we take really seriously. So, Dave, kind of give us, how do we get to this point where we have these numbers in front of us?
Sure. So, every year, it actually starts pretty early in the year. Early to midsummer, we begin to put some word out to all of our team leaders and all of the mission folks that say, let's have a sit down and just talk about how it's going for you. What are you looking at in the future? Is the amount that you've been budgeted, is that satisfactory? And so those thoughts and feelings are gathered and they're reduced to written form, and then the elders and the admin team have a joint meeting, and we sit down and go through those thoughtfully and put try to kind of summarize them, and then it kind of goes over to the admin team, and we take all of that input and we begin to put a rough draft of a budget together. And so once that budget, and included in that is the giving and how that relates to what we can do from an expenditure standpoint. So all that's thrown together. We talk about all of the different teams, talk about vision for the future. What do they see? And that's just all folded together. And the preliminary draft of the budget is then submitted to the elders. They review it and have a good look at it. And then once the elders approve that budget, it stands where it sits today. And that is, it's going to come to you all for a vote.
Yeah. And when we get together, there's two groups that are making decisions for the budget, the admin team and the elders. And when we come together, we have breakfast together, we spend the morning, and we're looking at not only what's going on in the church, but we're looking at what's going on in the economy. We're looking at, things that are going on in Buena Vista, the housing market. We're throwing up, what if scenarios, and it's a pretty lively time together of of conversations. because we really want to have a good sense of, reality and what's going on and all of that. So we wanted you guys to have a bit of just a picture of how we get here and the amount of time that's spent in back and forth. And that also includes Francie and Jan combing through the details of the decimal points and all that kind of stuff. And so that's where we are today. Well, we want to start then kind of looking at this last year. And Francie's going to walk us through, and you guys can jump in. This is, last year we said, this is the best year financially we've ever had. And we had the great opportunity last year to do some extra things for our 25th anniversary. We were able to give extra money to missions and Salt and Light. And it was a really fun year of giving resources away. And we came out of that year, and this year, God has blessed us even more financially. And so we're going to just kind of talk through this. Our current budget is $807,754, which means that every single week to do all that we're doing in our vision, our budget, we need $15,533. So, Francie, how have we done so far this year in doing that?
God is good, and so are our people, and they're so generous. I can't think of but about 2 weeks out of the entire year so far that we did not hit our weekly need and above.
So our current year-to-date giving, this is our general fund, and that number won't mean a whole lot to you guys because it's kind of in the middle. But the weekly average that we've had is $17,907, and that's $2,000, almost $2,000, or a little over $2,000, what our weekly need has been. And so it's been incredible. And so as a result, with our expenses, our year-to-date expenses are $607,988. And tell us a little bit about how that changes towards the end of the year.
It does. We have some end-of-the-year big expenses. We have some insurance policies that renew in the end of the year each year, and of course, we have winter expenses coming in that just escalate that. The missions team often gives end-of-year Christmas gifts to their missionaries, so they will spend a little extra above their monthly amount. They don't exceed their budget, but those gifts are going to go out at the end of the year that make that monthly expense look bigger.
So weekly tithes, offerings, free will offerings have been above and beyond.
Wow, yeah.
And that's been incredible. And on top of that, this year, we've had a lot of gifts that have come in from estates.
We're settled, and those people had willed us some funds, and that's been great. That's helped us do a lot of other projects that weren't initially budgeted for, but gave us the leeway to do that.
Yeah. So if you guys have a chance to take a walk around the building, if you haven't seen, part of those resources from dear friends went to
Will's
doing
Playground.
Will's
Yeah.
Playground.
That's
and
gorgeous.
So the berm has been done and turf laid, and the little climbing rocks have gotten put out there, the basketball hoop, and we still have another phase. Sheds have been put in,
Right.
walkways, shed put in over here. So we've gotten to do some of that stuff outside. And then inside, we've gotten to do a new soundboard.
Right. We had some new sound equipment. This stage was laid last year, just before the end of the year, but a lot of new things for the sanctuary and things, especially the sound room and how that comes out in our live streaming and makes that better, broadcasting and stuff. So we've been really blessed to be able to do things beyond our budget.
Yeah, that's been a blessing. So where are we sitting right now as far as our savings account and money markets and those kinds of things?
There we go. So, of course, we have a zero mortgage. We paid that off years ago for the addition. Currently, in our savings account, there's $323,310. We don't need that much in our savings account, but we keep putting it in there to cover expenses that might come up in the coming year.
And what we have as a policy is 3 months of operating expenses in there. So as we adjust the budget, we adjust our savings per that in the money market. And so we have that. And then in our reserve funds, we have some resources. So tell us a little bit about these.
Right. So some of those estates and special gifts have been designated to different areas. And so those funds are earmarked within our checking account. Will's Playground still has $10,000 left in it to work toward the final phase. We had a large gift early in the year to help kind of start a trip to Nicaragua, a mission trip down there. So we're holding those funds to get that trip launched hopefully this summer. And then at the end of last year, we had excess funds, and we went ahead and held those and carried those over, earmarked those for a special purchase this year. Hopefully, it'll get used before the end of the year.
Yeah, for a long time, we've been looking at a van for the church. Yeah.
Get our kids safely to and from camp, and guys to and from their men's retreats, and ladies to their places and things. And so we've earmarked some of that money to purchase that van, and hopefully we will get that before the end of the year.
Yeah, we've ordered it, but who knows when that, hopefully before camp.
November into January.
So last year, we had 71,918 over excess funds, and so far, year to date, we have 110,999 over budget
Yes.
for this. And so we are doing really well, and that's a part of the conversation of how we move forward in, and what we're doing this year for our budget is to say, okay, Lord, you've blessed us with this. How do you want us to use these resources? Okay, well, let's move forward to this year and what we see going into this year. And this, there's several areas that we want to talk about that are getting an increase, and so we'll just go over these. Let's start with missions, all right? And Bruce, maybe give us a little bit of some of the conversation we had about what's going on in the world and what our missionaries are facing for an increase for them.
Well, as we all know, cost of living has really increased, and that's just not locally, it's nationally, internationally. And so we, as a team, really feel the priority is to take care of our mission folks and make sure that their needs are being met. As the Lord has blessed us with excess funding, that's a real priority for Clearview. And so we're concerned about their needs and want to really help as much as we can. And that obviously is a priority, starts with the mission field and boils over into our own staff and local needs here with our own staff. And
Those kinds of things, yeah.
trying to stay ahead of that. For the last few years, our increases have been very minimal, and we have tried to really keep a tight rein on how much we spend on those areas. But just because the Lord has blessed us with excess funding doesn't mean we've got to be very diligent and prudent about where we spend that money.
Right.
So
that that budget number is going up to 61,430. Is that right? Is that the new number? And then Salt and Light missions is going up to 3280. So that's about a 15% increase total missions budget to 93,510. And this is specifically going to our monthly giving that are supporting missionaries. And so we're going to give those teams an increase in that. So that's the first one. Discipleship. Man, we've been busting at the seams. Dave, tell us a little bit about just some of the growth that we're seeing around here and in the building and in ministries.
Yeah, so I know many of you, as you come to church, whether it's the first or second service on Sunday morning, you see this beehive of activity of these little youngsters running around here, and then of course the sanctuary here fills up, and we've experienced some tremendous growth, which is so good. We see a lot of new young families in the church, and it's just so good to see. And so from the context of it being good, and it's all good, I don't want anything that I say to be But it takes extra resources then to handle all of the things that go on behind the scenes. We need babysitters. We need folks that can run the different greenhouse classes, and they're all volunteers. But it takes more resources to keep those classrooms going. All of the things that you see here, in some little bit here and there, it just takes resources. And so, as Bruce mentioned, things aren't getting any cheaper out there. And so, as we look to see what it's going to take to keep up with the growth that we're experiencing in all of these areas, it's going to take about an 18% increase. And God has blessed us through all of you richly with these resources, and I think we want to be wise. We want to be very careful with how we deploy these resources, but they don't need to be just sitting in the bank either. They need to be out working. That's why you all give. That's why God blesses us with these things. And so we're working very diligently to make sure that we deploy those resources in a positive manner.
All of these areas are getting increased. Francie, tell us just real briefly about what are the ones that are getting increases. These are all the items on discipleship.
So sure, the biggest increase is going to go to the greenhouse. Their curriculum, right, the kids' Sunday school program, their curriculum is pretty expensive. It's incredible curriculum, and I think a lot of the parents who have kids there get to see what comes home with the kids. They get an online program to work with the kids and stuff. But that is an expense that we hadn't necessarily budgeted correctly for in the past, and so we're going to take a big jump and help Julie get that curriculum. Another big jump is in the women's ministry. I love that we have so many new young moms coming, but that means we have roughly 18 kids every Tuesday morning that somebody has to take care of, and so we're trying to provide childcare for that and make sure we pay for more curriculum for the women than we have in the past. So those are a couple of the big ones.
Men's ministry
Yeah.
is getting an increase also.
We're going to try and
as
get
we
you
look at
guys
that.
a good retreat every year, and
Yep.
so we're adding to that.
And small groups is getting a bump, and the VBS always is getting a little bit
every
of
year
increase.
VBS gets a bump because every year we get more kids in
yeah.
VBS.
And costs go
which
up.
is great. You
Yeah.
know, we're busting at the seams and have 2 locations, for VBS now, because we just can't handle all of the kids in one building anymore. So, it's a great problem to have. I love it.
So thank you to all those leaders that are leading in those areas and giving us vision, and that's exciting to be a part of. Small groups continues to grow. Last year, a big step for us financially was being able to bring on Mitzi full-time, and it's been such a blessing. So thank you guys for the approval of that. She's continuing to lead small groups. We have a new small group that's just a couple of new small groups that are started up. But we're at about 20 small groups. We have about 238 people involved in small groups, and a lot of vision this year for that to grow and do more training for our leaders. So I want to do that. Benevolent fund is staying the same. This is pastor's discretionary account, associate pastor's discretionary account. This stuff gets used for all kinds of things, special needs that walk into the door. I use mine for taking care of staff resources, those kinds of things, also lunches, all that. We have a deacons fund and a care ministry fund and a benevolent fund. Those are all managed by those teams, the deacons fund and care ministry. We gave those a big bump, last year, and in the benevolent fund. And so the deacons fund goes to people inside the church. Like, for instance, we're building a ramp in the next couple of weeks for somebody who needs a ramp for getting into their house in a wheelchair. And then care ministry is about caring for people that are inside the ministry also, but that's more spiritual needs and grief and those kinds of things. And the benevolent fund is people that are in our community that don't go to our church and just need help with propane, need help with gas, and there's a constant stream of people coming through, and Salt and Light team oversees the benevolent fund. So those accounts are staying clear because we gave them an increase last year, but probably next year.
One place where we do receive designated funds.
Yep.
And so that allows the care ministry and the deacons to do a little extra over and above their budget if they need to. If there's designated funds there, then we can take on a project for somebody like the ramp.
Yeah, yeah, specific projects. All right, the one everyone loves, G and A, general administrative. This is buildings, utilities, office supplies, insurance, kitchen, all of those kinds of things, bookkeeping. This is going to get an 8.67% increase. And, any specifics you want to highlight in here?
Gas bill just keep going up.
Yeah.
Just say that. Yeah, and office stuff, it just costs more, and it's probably going to cost more than 8% more, but I'm happy with that. It just costs more. Our building is so busy all the time.
Yeah.
There is a meeting or something going on here pretty much from 8:30 in the morning until 9 o'clock at night, a lot of weeknights, and so it takes a little extra to keep the lights and the heat on for those kind of things. So, and we have a few building maintenance things. Our building's getting a little bit older, so that's getting a little bump there. Try and help Ron with that.
He does such a great job.
Yeah.
But with landscaping and all those things, snow removal, all of that is taking more resources. So there's a 8.67% in that. And then compensation. This is another big one. And Dave talked to us a little bit. A couple of years ago, Dave from the admin team and George got together and said, how is our staff doing in comparison to other staff, and what do we need to do?
The elders tasked between a joint project between the elders and the admin team said we felt we were probably needing to study the compensation side of things a little bit, and so we formed a little subcommittee, and it was myself and George Richardson, and we went out and just kind of did an informal survey of different similar churches and size and scale and all of those things, and what we found there was that we were not keeping up with our peers. In other words, we were underpaying our staff, and frankly, we felt that we needed to step up a little bit and to work towards getting a little more like similar churches in our size and scale. And so we set a program out, and it began last year, where we made small increases over and above cost of living to try to get ourselves up. And we didn't want to just implement that in 1 year. We wanted to step it up, and it's over about a 3-year period, and we're in year 2 of that. And so it's essentially about a 3 to 4% increase over and above cost of living to get ourselves equal and to try to be where we think we need to be. And so, and then we had this year hit. And, I know it's in the news, you read about it a lot. Inflation has hit us all pretty hard. And it's hit our staff especially hard, living and working in this beautiful place that we call Buena Vista. I think just nationally, it's figured about an 8.7%, something like that. But we all know in Colorado it's higher than that, and it's probably even higher than that in Buena Vista. And so, with the resources that we have, and we feel that it's necessary to take care of our staff. And so, when you roll down to the bottom there's about a 13% overall increase, which is towards the bottom end of all of the percentage increases and all of the other line items in the budget. But we feel it's necessary, and we feel it's fair. Everybody is struggling, we know that, and we're not, even at that, we're probably not keeping up with where we need to be, but we feel that that's fair, and feel that we need to propose that.
Typically, like last year was a 1.2 cost of living increase that all the staff got. So when we all got together with the elders and admin team, we said, what do we do with this? As it was pretty overwhelming to say, do we continue with a cost of living index? And do we continue with what you guys had proposed with bringing staff up? And do we do both? And you guys made the decision to continue with that program and do cost of living increase. So as a staff, we're very grateful for making that a priority. It's very, very humbling that you all would make that decision. And so compensation is going to be going up to $586,099. And so that'll give us a total budget of 2023, a 13% increase overall to $916,54. That'll put our weekly need at $17,616 and our monthly need at $76,337.
If I could say a couple of words about
Yeah.
that. So, we've gone over where we are today, and this weekly need is actually at about a 17. It's very similar to that number.
Right.
And so
Our giving, yeah.
our giving. And so we're kind of budgeting to what the giving has been. Francie mentioned our reserves, and we, I wish we could all forecast out in the future what it's going to look like and how things are going to wash out here. But thankfully, we are in a very healthy situation. Our church is blessed. And again, thanks to all of you. We have some reserves, and we try to keep about 3 months worth of reserves. We have that. We have actually over that right now. So as we move through the coming year, and if things start changing, we've got some reserves that we can fall back on, and that's what reserves are for, frankly. And so we feel like this budget, as proposed, we feel we can meet it. God's challenging us a little bit, I think. Maybe we need to expand that vision a little with the resources that He's given us. So, but we're budgeting to what we have coming in currently, and if that changes in any way, we got some time to adjust if we need to. So,
I think part of the discussion, this is the largest increase we've ever taken as a church, 13%. And so part of our discussion has been, as you look at our budget and you look at how we've been blessed in the monthly giving and the new folks that have come in and started to give, we see all this blessing. When we back out, we see these storm clouds, with this recession and what's going on with fuel costs and the costs that are affecting people's retirements. And so as we balance this, as we pray, we're kind of saying, okay, Lord, there's a storm coming, and yet you've blessed us. And so how do we move forward? And we feel like we need to move forward in faith with what God has placed in front of us, knowing that He'll give us wisdom as we go forward, if we have to adjust, if we have to use reserves. And so we're, it's been a lot of conversations around that, for sure. Okay, well, just as an overall proposed budget, here's the basics. Again, missions is going up. The one that we didn't mention was worship. Our worship budget is going up also, $3,000. And as you guys know from just being here, Brandon has a huge vision for expanding our worship ministry, bringing in other musicians. The amount of people that are on the worship team and on the tech team has increased a lot. And so he's asked for an increase, and we're going to be giving that to him too. So all of that, discipleship is going up, compensation is going up, and G&A is going up altogether for an increase of a 13% increase. And then before we close out, we want to talk about any other comments around budget or things that I missed? Okay. Again, we're giving this information to you guys so you can ask questions, email us, call us, stop us so we can get more info to you. But we want to end with just some things that have been stirring also. As we've been looking at the building use, office space, all those kinds of things, we have been asking the question, do we need more space, physical building space? Do we not? As we've been checking into that, we've realized we're kind of landlocked. So because of parking, because of retention pond, all of those types of things, we really can't expand our facilities anymore without having more land. And so we have been just praying about that and looking at it. And so Bruce has been kind of heading that up and looking at our land around us. And so Bruce, fill us in on kind of the possibilities or options that we have to be looking at and praying about for our church.
Let me first start by saying, as we meet as a team, the priority in all of this, as we see the growth, as we feel the pressure of programs growing and the need to meet and places to be, as God has blessed us financially, the priority has been ministry. How can we continue to look at the future and really provide a good platform for the gospel to be heard? And we should never apologize for improving the platform if it improves people hearing the gospel.
Yeah.
And for an example, just the money we're spending in the sound system and worship, it enhances hearing the gospel. So we should never apologize for that. The dilemma is we are dealing with bricks and mortar, and that's not a priority for Clearview. Ministry is a priority. But we do have a responsibility of looking in the future and listening to what God is telling us. We've been praying about this and discussing this with all the teams the last 2 years or longer. And so as the pressure mounts on Sunday school rooms and offices and sanctuary pressure and more people sitting in the overflow room, we have to ask some questions, and we really are seeking God's direction in how we move forward. And it is a tough balance because we do not want bricks and mortar to be the one that drives ministry. It supports ministry. So that being said, we have begun to look at the bigger picture, and one of the priorities is how do we improve and grow what we have here from a physical plant? And the first thing, as Zach mentioned, is that we're landlocked. I mean, half of our parking is on private property. They allow us to park there. There is encroachment issues, and we all know that. We see that in Buena Vista, and developers are growing this town immensely. I mean, we're seeing that pressure. So we've taken a look at the property, the real estate around Clearview. We've asked questions of, is this where we need to be? Is this the location that makes sense for now? So we've been praying and talking about that for quite a while. The feeling is at this point is to let's explore what we could do with what we have. And the first priority is we need more space, land space. And we have done some preliminary exploration with those possibilities. We've talked to ACA, who owns the property east and south of us. And they are willing to negotiate with us and talk to us about potential needs of acquiring some more real estate to the east of us, about 3 to 4 acres. And that speaks volumes because they are growing and they are considering some development for their own staff, ACA. So I think it's an opportunity. I think the Lord has cracked the door open to pursue that possibility. And we're praying about that. We're exploring that opportunity, and we need to be responsible for looking down the road and looking at the future. And it's the growth that is pushing this and motivating us to look at this, not the financial blessing that God has blessed us with. So from a big picture, that's where we are right now. That's what we're exploring.
Yeah, and so we wanted you guys to know that, just so you can be praying with us. Last year was the first year that we had excess funds past our budget, past our savings, that we didn't have a place to put someplace. So it had been paying off this facility, if we had excess funds, paying off the new facility. Then last year, we took those, or 2 years ago, we took those excess funds and said we're going to give it for the celebration, the $50,000. We had excess funds. This year, we are saying, Lord, what do you want us to do with those excess funds? And so by the end of the year, that could be, around 140 if giving continues, $150,000. And part of this prayer is this land piece, and kind of saying, okay, Lord, what do you want us to do with this? Or have you already prepared us a little bit to be able to purchase some land? Or is he wanting us to do something else? So we kind of anticipate around February, after all the bills are paid to the end of the year, we see where things are going on in the economy around us, what's gone on with these preliminary land investigations, to have another congregational meeting and to update you guys and to kind of say, here's where we are. Are we going to move forward on purchasing land, or has God shifted that direction? So unlike in the past, and some of you who have been here for a while, instead of these resources that are extra being dispersed, we're going to hold on to them into this fund to kind of curiously say, where do we go? And we feel like maybe February, something like that, we'll have more information for you to circle back around and say, here's where we're at. So we'd love your feedback and all of that and questions to get your guys' thoughts on that as you pray with us. Any other closing remarks, thoughts, things that we missed?
Well, as we look at the budget, as we look at the needs, it is amazing how you all have really been very vital in the ministry of Clearview, and how God has really provided financially. He's provided with staff that are very qualified. We're very fortunate, and the Lord's really blessed the ministry of Clearview, and that we need to continue to be very responsible with how He has blessed us. And I think from an elder team, we are very, very thrilled with how He's brought some incredible staff to this ministry, and we need to be continuing to support our staff and their needs. So these increases we feel are very much appropriate and a priority, and we've all experienced the benefit of those changes from our staff.
So you guys will be watching this on the 28th. We'll have an open forum on Thursday the 10th at 6:30 in the prayer room if you want to come in face-to-face and talk to us about any of this. And we have our annual meeting and vote on the budget on the 13th. It's going to be in between services. In order for you to participate, you need to fill out a voter card and get those in so that we know what our quorum is, and that'll be a real short meeting. And then you can get those either online or you can get them in person. And we also want to know, you can always email us at the church at info@clearviewcommunity.org, or give a call or ask us to go to coffee. Any kind of concerns or thoughts that you have for us, we would love to talk to you about that. So we hope that you have a great rest of your Saturday morning, and thanks for taking a little bit of it to join one of our meetings.
One
Yes.
last thing. If you'd like a copy of that budget, it's available at the info table.
Yes.
If you haven't picked one up or are not able to come in and pick a copy of that budget up, just give me a call, shoot me an email, and I'll send you a copy.
Yeah, that's great. All right. Well, God bless the rest of your day, and we'll see you all soon.